All right, welcome everyone to the presentation today. Thanks for joining us. I know it's tough breaking away for an hour sometimes from the day, but we're gonna try to keep it under an hour for you guys, answer some questions. And today's topic is focused on Revit MEP 2022, right? So what's new as it relates to the MEP disciplines. And before we get started, just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those into the question box in your GoToWebinar. There should be a question in a chat, a little drop down there. If you guys have attended some of our webinars in the past, just while people keeping an eye on the questions there throughout. If it's a simple yes, no, you might get an answer in that question box by one of us. And if not, we'll leave some time at the end of the presentation to answer some of those questions we see there. Additionally, this will also be recorded. So if you are in and out or have to break away for whatever reason, you'll get a link after this is concluded to the posting on YouTube on our Microdesk YouTube channel. It's also a good note just for future reference if you guys are interested in some topics, some webinars we're running. These 1 hour sessions sometimes don't work for the schedule, but if you're able to at least respond in RSVP, you'll be on that email list as well. So you'll get access and just a quick reminder link to that YouTube location instead of having to search around for it. All right, let's get started. We got a lot to cover, so let's jump in. So just real quick introductions here. My name is Andrew Jackowitz. I am a strategic implementation manager here at Microdesk. Expert knowledge in assisting organizations with implementing building information modeling technologies and processes into all of their design workflows, right? I also work closely with Microdesk sales team here to ensure we're delivering the most beneficial and effective implementation solutions to our clients. This involves providing things like technical support, multi-day training, product evaluations on-site, services, standards development, recommendations, and anything in between, right? I have experience in many of today's leading BIM technologies, including today's topic, which is Revit focused, as well as Navisworks, Dynamo, and our own product suite, BIMRX, actually, which hopefully some of you guys are starting to get familiar with. Really cool stuff out there that we're developing in-house here. And Microdesk, a little bit about us. Microdesk was founded in 1994 as an Autodesk reseller with a simple mission to assist the architecture, engineering, construction, and owners of the world, our AECO industry, with improving workflows and integrating product delivery technologies. And 25 years later, right, and that mission still holds true. Microdesk is a well-established AECO consulting firm with 13 offices in the US and UK. We have over 230 AECO consulting specialists and software developers, 230 of me, all sectors, all disciplines, and all stages is where we like to get involved in the product and help our clients solve their real-world challenges. Some of the hottest topics in the AECO world are globalization, urbanization, and sustainability. As some of you may know, urbanization studies suggest that the US will build 114 cities the size of Boston in the next 30 years. Here at Microdesk, we can help to make sure you're prepared to meet those demands. We use software from industry leaders and combine it with our vision and passion for sustainability to meet the demands of urbanization. Our team of industry expert consultants are redefining product delivery and asset management. Simply put, we're committed to helping our clients realize the business benefits of BIM quickly and economically by facilitating the use of innovative technologies and processes, whether it's streamlining your design, construction, or operations. As you see on these graphics here, our consulting team is the nation's largest and most experienced group of AECO technology consulting professionals. And our clients too, right? They represent some of the nation's largest and most respected organizations and public agencies, including the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Denver Airport, Robert A.M. Stern, and Columbia University, just to name a few that we worked with recently. To help support the industry with these demands of urbanization, we provide full service consulting, some of which are listed here on this slide. This includes building information modeling services, enterprise strategy, workflow assessments, technology management, mentoring and support, application development, Dynamo scripting, software and workflow training, right, and much, much more. We partner with world leaders such as Autodesk and IBM to utilize innovative technologies and methodologies to empower sustainable design and overcome local challenges. I'll put this in position to help you guys out by being on the cutting edge with these industry partners, giving webinars and providing information like this as we are today, specifically with Autodesk related to the 2022 release we're going to talk about, in addition to some of the other partners you see on the screen here, IBM, Penzera, and Bluebeam, just to name a few. All right, so getting into today specifically what we're here for, right? You guys are here to discuss and learn a bit more about the 2022 version year of Revit and what that can help solve for you guys on your day-to-day projects, right? So what's new? In that, Autodesk has laid out a couple of different kind of groupings of different features and additional capabilities in 2022. They've broken it out into this design productivity, interoperability, and documentation efficiency. And I've kind of chopped up a little bit for today's presentation and use all of those themes while also trying to discuss specifically the engineering priorities that you guys may have come across in the past version years and hopefully see what has been answered in this release. We'll leave some time for questions at the end as well and wrap that up. Okay, so with that, let's move on over to the demo. I'm going to switch my screen over to Revit and get started here. Okay, so we should be able to see that on my screen now. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So one of the first things I want to touch on in the MEP world, so we have in 2022 now a bit more of an organized output report for our system analysis. So scaling it back a little bit here, take a step back. In 2020, some of you guys might be aware, there was the system analysis that was introduced on the Analyze tab over here underneath the energy optimization panel. Right, so what this allowed us to do was create analytical surfaces and spaces based on different geometry in our models. So whether we were using early stage conceptual design with different building elements or conceptual masses, right, we were able to then build out those analytical spaces, create the energy model, which you see here. I pre-created this, so I have the different option here. I'm going to navigate to the analytical spaces isolated view, right? We would get a group of these type of elements, right, with our analytical spaces that then we were able to use for possibly third-party locales, possibly native in Revit. But what we've rolled out here, Autodesk has, is allowed us to run that and simplify that report that we find. So if I navigate down to my analysis reports, which was the output now, it's a bit more simplified. New improved report provides key information on zone loads, system loads. So you can see here, based on what I've built out for my analytical spaces in the model. And that goes back to the system browser as well. So if I come over here to my View tab, user interface, and toggle on my system browser, you can see obviously we have our legacy systems and zones that we built out, but the analytical systems, again, just a quick refresher on some of those previous updates and other versions. We were able to build out systems, adding zone equipment, air systems, or water loops, which then can include some of those analytical spaces as well, which then our report will reflect. So basically what Autodesk tried to really get across here was more of a, simplified and organized output report here that we can use, and mirrors a lot of the industry standard third-party stuff with Train or Carrier that you might see. And that's probably because it actually is using some of the same back-end technology of the Energy Plus on the back end. So what you will find here is going to be similar. And I know Autodesk has done some one-to-one comparisons with Train, Carrier, and other industry-leading third-party load calc software for that, and looks pretty close on most of their testing. For this, I can do an export out to PDF, right? Run that from here. It's going to go through all of the spaces that I have built out, choose a location for that PDF to save it, like that. So that's our system analysis update, kind of a bit of a refresher from 2020, but just know that we do have a bit more laid out report structure there. Now, additionally, a little bit less of a draw here, but for on the Analyze tab, we have our energy settings. Let's see here, we have we can build out now in the drop-down list, we have added this use room or spaces option. So depending on where you are at the stage of your modeling, if it's just early on conceptual masses, building elements, or if you want to hone that down to the actual rooms and spaces we have in our model, we can define those energy settings with an additional use room or spaces options, which was available, I believe, as the GBXML output before, but wasn't as a drop-down in the energy settings. So that's been added. Again, that's going to tie in with how those analytical surfaces and spaces are created. If you're interested in this, obviously this can be a whole session in and of itself. I know there's some great Autodesk University presentations and papers on that. We could also reach out via the questions or chat or just after the fact, and we can touch base and point you in the right direction there. But moving on from that, I want to make sure we touch on enough today for some of the functionality that's been added. So moving over now to electrical. If I come over to I'm going to close out the system browser for a little space here. And let's navigate over to some panel schedules. So I created just a couple of basic power panels here. Let me close out of some of these other views and tile these for you guys. So on the left, I have just a single phase, just created a load on the circuit table there. And then we have a three-phase panel 1 on the right here, right? Now, I bring them both up because the added functionality in Revit for 2022 has actually added this option on the, panel schedules, edit a template. My default branch panel, right? This comes out of the box with Revit. You guys might have in your template file right now built out a bunch of different options for different max number of breakers or different kind of layouts for our panel schedules. We've tried to simplify things a little bit here. And if we come over to set template options, we've added now this auto shading for displaying load. So what that does, if I toggle that on, that's going to allow me now, let's save this through, finish template, and then reapply. Got to reapply it for it to come through, right? Based on the max number of breakers, and then based on the actual functionality of the number of phases of that panel, we're going to have grayed out columns and rows in our circuit table, right? So that now will also hold true if I come over here to my three-phase panel, right? It's the same panel schedule template. I'm just going to reapply that template, and we can see here, right, keeps the same logical layout of my panel schedule for one phase versus three phase. Just basically I'm able to simplify a bit of my templates possibly, and you guys can get creative with that. Maybe how many panel schedule templates, reduce some user error and whatnot. Now you're seeing the grays out down here as well after my circuit number 12, I believe it is. That's because my max number of breakers was locked in for those two panel boards at 12, right? So if I were to change that in my modeling view, and reapply the template again, that will allow me to further kind of simplify some of our layout. So if I can go ahead and do that right now, come over to my electrical view, has that panel schedule I'm dealing with. So this is PP12 here. Let's say maybe I increase that to 18. Come back to my panel schedule. If I just got to update it always, right? And it'll update that, right? Build that out to allow me to show all 18 of those and gray out the rest. So nice little quality of life feature there. Okay, next one's I like a lot. Added categories in Revit, been a long time coming. I'm just going to come over to a floor plan view here. This mechanical floor plan will work. So let me close out of these panel schedules. Okay, great. So I'm going to do a VG, just visibility graphics, and right away notice on the top here we have audiovisual devices, right? So some of the categories that might be useful for you guys to build out templates, filters, just standards in general, being able to enjoy and be more flexible with some of the modeling that this allows for. We've also added, there's been added fire protection. Medical equipment, I believe, is down here. Yep, medical equipment right there. A couple other ones that might pertain to architecture, structural a bit more, vertical circulation maybe. So yeah, just so signage, I believe might have been on a previous release as well, but definitely fire protection, medical equipment, and AV is going to allow you guys to maybe get creative with that, build out some more templates, some more settings, standard tagging functionality and whatnot. So object styles as well, maybe printing with different line widths, all the fun stuff that categories, as we know, the backbone of Revit allow for. Kind of tying in with that as well, another thing I want to touch on is also related to categories. So I'm going to come over to my power plan for this actually. So we know in Revit, the electrical plan is what I want to be in. We know for a while now, many of our categories had that maintain annotation orientation checkbox in the family file itself for certain categories, right? So for electrical fixtures, come back up to my VG actually. So for communication devices, data devices, electrical fixtures, file and devices, so on and so forth, a lot of stuff that would typically be maybe wall hosted and or ceiling hosted or floor mounted depending on, or furniture mounted even depending on the use of that family, you're able to then pass that symbology through on non-parallel views, right? So whether or not I'm in hosting on a wall or a floor, right? If I were to just do a create similar here, place that on the floor, obviously I'd have to mess with some of the geometry here for visibility, but right, we're seeing that on now a wall face and a floor face. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. That's now been added through for multiple categories. So we also have that now available for electrical equipment, generic models, lighting fixtures, mechanical equipment, plumbing fixtures, and specialty equipment. So I actually made this dummy lighting fixture family. So lighting fixture A. If I bring that in, say place on a vertical face, it's just picking up some of the parameter information there. I just typed in LF in the label, and then I'm going to also say place on face here. Obviously, I'm on a floor plan here, but if I was on a ceiling plan as well, you can see that's an element that's now kind of floor or ceiling, right? Parallel view as well as a wall, and also in showing the symbology in both, right? So that's a great added feature. You can build that out, maybe affect some different standard families, standard content that we're using. Could definitely see this being used for generic models a lot, as well as, like I said, the lighting fixtures there. If you want to show some symbology baked in, if you have some wall-mounted fixtures, right? Plumbing fixtures as well, depending on the orientation of things. So it's really just been nice. It'd almost be great to see that added through for some more categories, but I think the Autodesk has pinpointed some of the categories of interest that was provided by user feedback. That's another thing to mention. A lot of the things that you might see coming through for 2022 related to MEP specifically has been in response to some of the top voted user ideas on the Revit forums too. So that's good to see some action there and addressing some of the industry-wide needs. Okay, moving on briefly to fabrication now. So there are some fabrication improvements as well. I'm going to come over to my mechanical view. A lot of stuff is going to be more in the back end. We're really not going to see a lot of it, except for you're not going to have to be swapping out a lot more and doing a lot more manual work when we perform a design to fabrication, right? So the situation I have lined up here, I know this came up a bunch with the fabrication folks where, you know, we designed a fabrication, I tab through here, right, with this command up here and points to our fabrication database. Oftentimes we would get weird results like this where maybe you lost your taps, you lost some transitions, if you had some, you know, slightly just non-perfect situations, which we all know that's going to come up obviously in any building design, right? So for something like this, right, just it's still pretty straightforward, but I have some taps built in here, some end caps. If I tab through this, you know, maybe some of my branches are not exactly at the same elevation as my main, right? If I tab through this and perform my design to fabrication, I also don't have to choose the service. It's going to remember the most recently selected one from my MEP fabrication parts dialog box. I still have my options obviously down here for my sizes, what I really want to map that to within the service. But additionally with inline parts now, I can actually swap that out with individual replacements. If I don't like that rectangular end cap default option, within this service, I can choose a different one. So if I say, maybe I want this, this other in cap option here, I can have that swapped out. Choose select. Whoops, we had a little bit of a weird result there. Might have been something with size here, let's see. Yeah, it's something to look at, but looks like you have some weird four-way. I think we might have just been a little bit more off than it would accept there. Let's see if I switch that back. We're at 10. Let's put that at 10 too. I think when I was messing around with this beforehand, I put them at pretty extreme values, testing the limits of it. But let's try that again. So design to fabrication. I'll do the same thing. I'll move that. I'll swap that part out. There we go. Great. You can see the tabs came in nicely, like so. Now, additionally, we also have, with this design condition here, where we have a offset possibly with some of our transitions. I know before in the past, same thing, design fabrication dealt with that a bit difficultly, but now it will accept that nicely and keep those instance parameters and map to the transition type that we have. So again, you should find that just overall, some of that fabrication work should be a little bit easier and less kind of filling in gaps like we'd see here and here, right? Just in general. Additionally, just to clarify too, with when we did swap that part out, right? When I did my design to fabrication and I chose the part, I don't know if I'm going to get one here because I don't think I have any end caps. Oh no, I do. Those in fabrication will know that, previously, if you wanted to find a specific fabrication part to be substituted for a given Revit family, right, you have to make those mappings in the Fab database via the button mappings in CAD MEP, ChemDuct, right? And that was kind of error prone. I think you had to have family names match up, all that. This just allows it to be more in the user's hands in the Revit environment. So hopefully that's something that we can harness. One more thing to say about that, I believe if we reload the configuration, that gets overridden by the configuration. So that is something to keep in mind. It's kind of like an override on a case-by-case basis. Okay, moving on to some more general features that definitely affect MEP folks as well. I'm going to move into a 3D view here, shift focus away from our fabrication for a second, and just go back to an overall 3D view here. All right, so we're seeing here just a general overall view of my architectural model and building elements within. We know in previous releases too, this show levels in 3D view was introduced. You can see all my different levels I have here. What's been added now is the show grids, right? So show grids over my properties on the left. If I choose edit, I'm able then to show the grids on certain levels. And you might have already seen them coming through. I'm going to go ahead and move that over to the top and maybe just a couple levels in between. Choose OK. And we can see those in the view right here, right? And also selectable as plane. So I'm choosing grid line J right now. You can see that's kind of get a quick cut of the building. Also able to locate elements a little bit faster in a 3D environment like that. If we have, just a section view, right? A 3D section view, a snapshot like that. I choose my section box creation and then have my grid lines modeled on. It might be easier going back and forth with coordination, locating objects on a large project, and just something that, fundamental to modeling should be available. So that's been added as well, which is nice. Another small update too, just on the insert tab, or large if you're using the Autodesk content a bunch. Specifically, we have a load Autodesk family button now. So if I choose that command, brings up this enhanced UI that really just puts everything right here in this dialog box. So I have my browse by our different categories available. It's searchable, right? Maybe I'm looking for a, let's see, some kind of smoke detector. Give it a second. It doesn't need the enter pressed. It'll just automatically search through. Should locate. Probably should have narrowed that down to maybe just the mechanical area. Let's see. Try it again. Oops. Let's try start panel boards. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it does take the enter. I thought it was dynamic for some reason last time I was testing it. So yeah, you do have to press enter on it for it to search. So we find our panel boards where we can easily locate, search in a browser over here too. So really nice. Can narrow that down by the equipment as well and load those into a project. So just a bit more friendly than working in our file explorer and kind of navigating through those different folders. That might be a little tougher. We just kind of come up to date with just where some of the content management should be in the Revit world. Okay, moving into some view functionality now. If I jump over to floor plan again. So I'm back in this mechanical floor plan here. And I come to my VG and to my filters. Oh, sorry, actually, no, I want to be in this phasing view I created. Yeah. So VG, come over to my filters. Phases are now available. Phase parameters of elements are now available in our filters dialog box, right? Great. So we can choose edit new on that. I already previously created a couple phasing filters for this new construction phase, and I also added a phase 1 phase to my project. Applied through for some mechanical systems, and you can see here now I'm just isolating by system classification. Was obviously been available for a while, but I have this drop down now for phase created or phase demolished have been added as arguments for those filter rules, which is awesome. You know, if again able to get creative with this, possibly build out some views where you say show complete on the project and then isolate and color code by the different phases. Working in tandem with those view parameters for phase and phase filter, right? We know we've used those in the past to showcase a lot of our different views at different stages in the design. Can be really useful now and just kind of, again, opens up to you guys as the user able to do something like this where we say, okay, these are elements that were part and added to phase created phase 1, and then the rest of these as part of new construction. I think there were some workaround solutions in the past to get views like this, so this is really baked into the intention of some of the commands and features that we're seeing in version 2022. So that's really nice. Another small just quality of life thing, moving around with our filters. Again, I'm going to jump back over to the other mechanical view. Jump into my filters. We know it's kind of was a pain in the past if I wanted to say, hey, maybe move the priority of all these conduit filters up or down. Now I can multi-select and just has a bit more usability. That's typical to what we would see in a lot of the other functionality within Revit. Multi-select, being able to move those filters around and edit overrides at the same time, right? Pass that through. I mean, that's a task that I know has taken a bit more time for users in the past, having to do those individually, create different overrides. So just a little bit easier to make those changes in our filter dialog box. So that was two things, right? Parameters available, phasing of our elements, phase created and phase demolished, and then also editing the actual filters themselves via the visibility graphics dialog box. Okay. Jumping out of here, so I'm going to stay on my one-dash mechanical view. I'm going to create a callout view. What's been done here in Revit 2022 is created the ability to separate that callout view from this parent view, right? So we know that when this is created, it's created as a callout one, kind of related to the view that it was part of. Now what I'm able to do is, if I wanted to delete that mechanical one view, it's going to flag me and say, hey, that view is being deleted, but you have a callout view that's placed on here. What do you want to do? You want to make the callout view independent or delete the callout view with the parent view, right? So we're able to make that independency a reality now. And you can already imagine, I'm sure you guys have done rework where that was kind of a forced issue where you had to delete the callout view based on some changes to that master view for whatever reason, and maybe you lose a ton of annotation and text and all that work. Really, again, honing in on that topic we discussed at the top, just kind of trying to make that documentation, efficiency, design, enhanced modeling in Revit, a bit more intuitive, and save a bunch of time on some of these tasks that aren't really necessarily adding to the value of your project, right? So that's something that's great, right? We can create that as an independent view. I'm going to keep this view active. I don't want to delete that. And we're able to then, in the properties of that callout view, show in the parent view only, or we can have it as intersecting views. So, right, if it's passing through any other views of that same location, we can make that locked into just the parent view, right? The view was created on, or passing through to other of those first floor views in that location as well. So that's useful, dealing with those callout views and changes and reacting to design changes. Okay, moving over to our sticking on documentation efficiency here for a second on the view tab, and working with our revisions. Some customization added, right? So we had our legacy numbering system of alphanumeric or numeric, you know, R1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, right? Well, what if we have some unique situations? So what we can do is customize our numbering now and build that out now to add additional schemes, right? So maybe I have different packages. Call it package 1.1 maybe, or maybe just 1, and then our number of digits 1, starting number is 1 as well. You got prefix and suffixes to that if we need to. I can say okay on that, and then maybe I also had a, you know, package 2. I'm keeping it real generic right now. It can also be alphanumeric as well. Just give ourselves some options here. And so now that's added as some of the custom numbering available. I have that available now on my drop down. I can say, okay, this is part of package 1. Revision number will be 1. If we add that, if we continue to add down, let's see. So we have 1.2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth, right? So it's just giving us a little bit more flexibility instead of just A, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D options, right? We're able to customize that and build that out with a little bit more, you know, maybe I call that, you know, there's another prefix as well there. So that's something to keep in mind when we're building that out. We have package 2 now with that prefix. I put in, that was the ABC versioning, right? If I were to swap those out versus the original one, we're just going to take that numbering name and then still stick with that, just 1, 2. So just a bit more of a customization underneath our revision number column over here. Okay, another thing, I'm going to jump into my schedules now to showcase this. I can probably do it just with a select all. So we know I select all. You know, if I just do a box select right here, you know, actually maybe just stick with our ductwork, might be a little easier. Yeah. So obviously something like a mark value or a size when we have a big run like this is going to vary. Now your properties dialog box and your parameters actually reads varies instead of just being blank, right? If it's blank, it actually might not be populated, right? There are actual different conditions in the Revit database, right? You know, something like this for floor code or equipment type is actually not filled out at all. Whereas if I tab through, that's different than there just being a different mark value or a different ID value when you're selecting different equipment. So I think what this is intended to do is just give the user a bit more insight into what's being selected and edited, especially maybe some newer users or you know, folks selecting multiple things at a time. Easy to make a mistake where you populate the wrong field, right? So something like that allows us to have some insight into that. That'll also obviously appear in our schedules. So when we do take a look at our schedules here, so let me jump into, I think I have a water source heat pump schedule here, or was it maybe the air cooled, I think was what I was looking at. Varies, no. You know, it was in the pipe schedule, I believe. Let's see. This is a type schedule I built out for an instance. Yeah, I don't have an example right now for the schedule, but it's going to come through as well with the varies. I can create a quick duct schedule if we wanted to even here. But for the sake of time, want to make sure I cover some more topics. I think we understand what we're really seeing there, right? Just that the varies is the grayed out parameter that's coming through on that dummy field, if you will. Referred to as multiple value indication in our in the rollout if you're looking for that in the what's new. Okay, staying on our schedules though, we do have this split and fit place functionality. So if I come back over to maybe just this water source heat pump schedule, you see it over here all the way over on the right on our modify schedule quantities. So split and place, something where you have maybe, I don't know, like your VAV boxes, you got 50 or 100 of them on a given project. In the past, we'd have to actually duplicate that schedule again, kind of do a little workaround and filter out by ID numbers that start at 51 or whatever and split those between sheets. Leads to inconsistency in standards. So what we're able to do now is split in place. So if I wanted this schedule to appear on multiple sheets, just come down to my sheets, minimize my families for you guys here. Let's see, so we have, I create a new sheet, just a standard 30 by 42 here, and come back to my water source heat pump schedule and say split in place. Put one on this sheet right here. Actually, let me create another sheet for us. I need two of them. So 2 sheets, great. Let's try that again. So split in place, I'll put them on this E3 and E4, split evenly, or we can customize based on the height of the actual schedule. And we'll see that now. Place one here and place the other, right? Starting down from 13 through 3.9. And on the first one, we have 1.1 through 1.12. So we had 7 elements over here, and then we had 6 here. You can see that's just built out by the element count versus the height of the actual schedule. So you have some options there for split and placing. Sticking with schedules, there's a couple more added functionality to that. If I come over to my VG, or sorry, my edit fields, this filter available fields drop down. Don't miss out on this. This is a big thing, definitely for sorting through our mess of parameters, right? Filter available fields. We can now search by parameter type, whether it's a built-in parameter, a project parameter, share parameter from a family, or share parameter from a project. For those of you that have experience with our schedules and sorting out different parameters where they're coming from, it can be a pain, right? Especially if things are named similarly or even the same. At times, that could be a whole other mess. But separating this out by our different parameters that we have, or if we simply want to use some of the built-in stuff based on the category, as well as the value type, and whether it's a type or instance parameter, right? So this can be huge for sorting through and understanding what's actually being brought into your schedule without having to do my legacy option of choosing. Let's see here. These are all built-in parameters, so I can't select any of them. If I choose my little edit button and look at, okay, is it a project or shared? Is it part of the shared parameter file or not? Is it type or instance, right? If you're checking however many parameters throughout a given project, a given day, that can be a ton of time that we really don't have to be in and out of dialog boxes if we can find that all here by searchable fields, right? So again, quality of life, just being able to search those fields a little bit easier. That also goes in with our product parameters. I know we're jumping over to product parameters here really quickly, but just because it's the same functionality, if I go to manage product parameters, can do the same thing. It's a little bit consolidated dialog box to fit in with the product parameter dialog box that's been legacy as well. But same thing, I can search by product parameter or shared parameters that are project parameters, right? Same thing, discipline, and maybe I just want my HVAC ones or I just want my electrical ones, and I'm looking only for current, right? Don't have any built in this product, it looks like, and that's a good thing to know, right? If we don't have anything built in, great, okay, I'm not missing anything on parameters that are built in. Maybe I need to add that for some of my circuits. Another thing for schedules, I come over to my water source heat pump schedule. You also see here, when I do that split in place, you get this added expand collapse button within the schedule and quantities area of our product browser, right? So that alerts the user too that it is split between 2 sheets, and that's what you'll see on the actual sheets themselves. It'll say 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. I know a question that might come up, can you split it beyond 2? I think it's just 2 at the moment, but that's something that we can get a final answer for and see. I'm sure that can be built in to future releases possibly, but I think for right now, it's just for the 2. but we can confirm that answer. I'm coming back to the water source heat pumps though, right? So I do have now on the edit fields, much sought after for a while, work set is now available as a parameter. So if I move that over to my schedule fields, we see that right here now. It's been populated. I can filter by that. I can sort by the work set for QA/QC purposes, for whatever, right? It's just a parameter that's now available in our schedules. We can also filter by family and type now. So I come over to filter. I think I have to add family and type to this specific schedule. In the past, we were able to sort by it. Or sorry, we were able to sort by it, but we were not able to filter by family and type, which we are now. So again, between work set and family and type now being added as fully filterable, fully schedulable, fully filterable, and fully sorted within our schedules, that should allow us to really narrow down those schedules and create some standards for that too that are useful for our team members within the Revit environment. So really just opening up some more functionality for some users there as well. Two more things quickly about our schedules, and then we'll move on to some annotation. Make sure we leave some time at the end here. Key schedules, now available to be used. If I create a new schedule here really quickly, a new schedule quantities, and maybe I choose my air terminal schedule keys, I'm now able to use my shared parameters. So if I had a shared parameter as part of the project, these can be, pointer parameters for my schedule keys, which is great. Able to point maybe some typical, floor codes or equipment codes across different elements in our project by use of shared parameters. So really kind of tie that in with our equipment schedules, being able to build out those key schedules for different pieces of equipment or duct runs, pipe runs, electrical elements, plumbing fixtures, whatever it may be. The shared parameters are now available in our key schedules. And then lastly, the default behavior for our exporting of schedules. If I come to the export tab, down to our reports schedule, the default, just flagging me that I didn't save this recently, that's fine. The default is our CSV file type. So really just minor change, but again, just kind of makes that a breeze for maybe some newer users or folks that haven't export that out to a CSV file and edit things in Excel. Defaults to that behavior now right away from the export file tab. Okay. All right, let's jump out of these mess of tabs that I've opened up for all these different schedules and get back into my modeling area. So I'm going to come back to my floor plan here, just a sample floor plan. Close hidden, close inactive, sorry. And I come up here. Yeah, so we're seeing an example of that right here. So two things. Number one, we have our tagging is now available to have multiple hosts. So you can add multiple leaders to tags, and we have this add remove host option up here. So right, if I created a new tag and I say, okay, this is a 12 by 12, I can select that tag and say add remove host and choose another host. Choose another host. However, if we do get this situation where we have differences, we get the same varies parameter, right? So this is not a 12 by 12, it flags that. I say, okay, let's choose the tag again, add remove host, and let's remove that out and just have it pointing to multiple hosts that apply, right? So really nice with that. That's pretty unlimited as far as how many hosts you can add to it. I believe that, with this, it's really gonna try to narrow down and focus on not having that situation where we have, 5 instances of a tag really stacked on top of each other like that, just for the point of getting a leader. Just adds congestion to the model. Not really necessary, especially when we can just pass that logic through from hosts of tag hosts to a multi-host tag like this, I guess we'll call it. We also have the ability to rotate tags. If I tag a piece of equipment right here at some odd angles, so let's see, I have a piece of equipment right here. Yeah, there we go. I think it's just picking up the mark value. Oops, launch that edit family mode. Sorry about that. There we go, right here. Now able to use the just out of the box rotate command, right? If I want to move that at a specific angle, something like room tags, or if you have some design condition as well where that's necessary, it does allow that angle parameter I can also type it in, obviously lock that into a 45, something like that if I had the equipment at an angle or need to show it like so. So that's been added. Small option there, but useful. In general, just improve tag behavior as well across elements and links that you're tagging. So it is now really looking at the element ID specifically from the link. I don't really have a demo for this, but just kind of an explanation. If we're tagging through a link file like this, we're tagging the doors, maybe on this view. And if that door moves or changes in any way, this tag through the link is now looking at that exact element ID. So it should pick up that host with a new location slightly through the linked model. So that's really focusing on behavior through links and able to recognize that a bit more. Again, going to be on the back end. I think all you'll really find with this added feature is less rework of having to reapply hosts. Again, not perfect. You're still going to probably you're going to have floating tags show up from time to time. But in general, the logic has been put in on the back end in 2022 to be a little bit smarter with that if elements through links do move around. For dimension types, if I do just a quick dimension here, maybe come over to types. There's been added now this dimension prefix and suffix as a type parameter. So instead of just an override, if I double click here, we know this would be a instance by instance basis where we're just double clicking the tag value and just putting in a prefix and suffix. We could bake that into our type properties and maybe create a new linear dimension type for prefixes and suffixes to exist in, right? So that's going to be something that can be built out in templates as well. Maybe we have that built out as, okay, this is going to always have a suffix on it for this dimension type. Should drastically reduce some documentation specific to your own firms if you are using that typically for your dimensions. And then in general, just a little more broadly, some of our fixes to MEP documentation, improvements in a lot of areas, with piping. I know if I come over to one of these views here, let's see, I have a drop anywhere, maybe in the plumbing view, I might. Condition where we have, like right here, where we have a drop or a rise and the fitting itself wasn't really going to be able to be tagged as easily for that size that we want. Just a little bit more usability there. You see I didn't have to tab through a bunch to get the tag for the size that I want it. You're going to be able to get that off of a fitting now for a riser pretty easily through that tagging functionality for vertical pipes. Just some single line improvement as well as far as overlapping pipe and duct if you are a single line, and conduit as well. Seeing some of those weird conditions possibly that might come up when you have overlapping underlays and whatnot in the single line setting. Nested families, pinned elements. I think with pinned elements there was a condition that they found. So this tail end is kind of just some borderline like bug fixes, if you will, of weird conditions that have come up by users. Pinned elements, I think if you pinned a piece of equipment or a fixture that had a connection on it, you were able to select the connector and sometimes move it in weird instances. So they've resolved that in the back end as well to make that a bit easier. Lastly now, just touching on some interoperability here. Our 2D exporter now has been built in native to Revit. I know there's some third-party software out there for printing. If I go to File, Export, we now have this create PDF for 2D sets, right? Just our printed sets. So really just straightforward, able to now choose my selected views and sheets. Maybe I just choose in session. I can choose just a couple here. Let's see. Just want my sheets probably. If we just select our sheets, we're able to then export that out, combines the selected views and sheets or a single PDF file. Really just mirrors a lot of stuff that you might be finding in a third party, if it's Bluebeam or whatever you may be using. It's now just native to Revit. It's not going to be a pain to have to do the Control P, print through different sets, have to accept every slight, name change for a set. You can lock that all in and just let the thing run for either a full set or for separate sheets as well. So again, another one of those things, kind of long time coming, but can trust that it's built into Revit now for some of our sheet sets in printing. Also, if I open up a 3D view as well, shared views, working with team members that maybe aren't in Revit, project managers, stakeholders that want to have some input onto some of the different design changes, coordination issues, whatever that might be going on. What I can do is do a shared view. So let's see here. I come up to the 3D view. 1 second, sorry. Yeah, collaborate tab. I'm sorry, I thought I was on the view tab there for a second. So on the collaborate tab, shared view. Makes sense. Sometimes we lose sight of these commands as well. Opens up another dialog box here. We can see that we have a couple I already previously created. Export that out. It creates it rather quickly, and then we can pop into a browser situation and be able to see, make markups, comments. I can open that and launch that here within the Revit environment and see the comment that was made. Again, I still have just Revit showing on my screen, so we'll trust that that markup is made in the browser environment and then can be brought back in, mark as resolved, add different comments here as well. So it really just allows anyone with a internet connection in a browser ability to make some comments and for better or for worse on some of the things that are going on in the Revit model at that time. And then some minor things, just ability to expand more dialog boxes, really nothing crazy there, but manage transfer product standards. In the past, you couldn't very simply just do this. That's been added now through to any dialog box that was still lingering with some legacy some UI there, right? So you have that for sync with central, purge unused, warning dialog boxes, view filter panels, bunch of different things for that. Looks like we're at about 155 right now. There's a couple other just developer tools that were added for those of you guys familiar using Dynamo. I think the count is at 67, I believe it was, for commonly requested nodes were added, built into the shipped version of 2022. So some of that stuff that maybe you were using some customized coding or Python, whatever it may be, to create those nodes, have been added through. Stuff that was, again, voted on, and they got a lot of feedback from users. Autodesk did for annotation nodes, sheet nodes, view nodes, just common stuff to get some cool automation done within Revit. So those were added. Dynamo, I think for Revit 2.10 was the version that's included in 2022. So yeah, we're at 155 right now. So let me take a look at the questions tab here and pop that out. Let's see what we have here. 1 second. We'll just work with SysQ. I'm not sure. I believe that's probably referring to maybe the fabrication updates. We can get an answer for that. I'm not sure how it plays with SysQ differently or the most recent versions of SysQ. Does the multi-leader tag work with user keynotes as well? I know it was added through for just the common category tags. For user keynotes, it wasn't specified in the release notes, so we can test that out. We can back to you, Stephen, as well, and see. So that's, yeah, probably take some testing on my end. I didn't get a chance to look at that for user keynotes, and it wasn't specifically outlined, but we can check that for you as well. Any improvements to keynotes with plotting notes in multiple sheets, splitting. The same functionality. I imagine you're asking about how we're able to split the schedules up now, as well as splitting the keynotes up. Again, not outlined. If it wasn't outlined in these release notes that I saw, I don't believe it was added as part of this 2022 update. Again, I can test it out and take a look, but I probably wouldn't be confident that it was added. I feel like it would have been mentioned for an added quality of life feature like that as well. But all good things to keep in mind too. I mean, and for the last note on that for 2022, I think that's all the questions I'm seeing right now. This Autodesk really was trying to say with some of these updates. Hey, we are listening to some of those user requested and voted features on some of the forums for Autodesk. So more the reason to get those pain points out there, even if it's uncomfortable, to say, hey, we can't do this. It's been a pain. I know a lot of you, and myself included, we'll mention those things time to time. Hey, this is a pain. Could really use A and B to get my job done easier. So hopefully some of these updates that we're seeing in this version here will respond to that, and hopefully for the next go around, some added functionality for that as well. Let me switch my screen here real quick back to PowerPoint and do some wrap up. Okay, and real quickly, I think we discussed, we talked about the questions already. If you guys have any more though, you can always reach out to us and find us on microdesk.com is our website. You can call us by phone in the US at that 1-800 number shown here, in the UK right below. And you can always email us too at salessupport@microdesk.com. Answer any questions or follow up with anything that we talked about today, or just any issues in general that you guys might be having in general. So yeah, thank you guys for your time. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I'll leave this up here for a second as you guys get going, and thanks again. Take care.